For those that haven't had a chance to meet with my name is Sean Bullock. I'm the interim high performance director for Nordic Canada. I also want to introduce several of our Nordic Canada staff that will be joining us here today, and several of them will be addressing items as we go. We have Jeff Ellis, who is our manager of events and officials, with us today. We have Eric Denise, who is our lead domestic high performance. We have a new addition to the Nordic Canada family. Haley Mori is joining us as our new high performance coordinator. So welcome, Haley. This is week 1 for Haley. So hopefully everyone gets a chance to meet Haley here in the very near future. And obviously a familiar face to everyone. We have Nathaniel with us today. So thanks for joining us, Nathaniel. And lastly, I'll turn it over to our CEO, Becky Scott, to say a few words.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Hi, everyone. Just a very quick hello from me and welcome to the town hall. I think this is our first town hall under the new leadership, so we're excited to host it, to have you here and to share the information that we have for you today. It's been a long process, and thank you for your patience with us, but I have to say I would just like to acknowledge the amount of work that's gone into this and trying to get it right, and all the people who pulled together to really, as a collective, to try to make this a very strong, comprehensive, and robust selection criteria. So to that end, thank you to the coaches group that we leaned on for consultation and advice, in our high performance committee, as well as all of our staff who have worked tirelessly on this. So thanks to everyone. And as always, this is one of many communications that we'll try to keep going with you as the community, and know that our doors are open. We do appreciate feedback. We want to hear from you, and that we are all, one team here together. So trying to always put our best foot forward and move the ship forward as a team. So yeah, thanks again, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts and comments on the criteria. Back to you, Sean.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Becky. Just to outline today's agenda, obviously just a welcome from Becky, and then we're going to get into the Nordic Canada objective within the Olympic Winter Games. Then we'll actually go into the document itself, and we'll get into some of the details that are outlined in the document. And then we'll turn it over to Eric to take us through the schedule for the actual trials that will be held in Prince George. And then finally, we'll get into the floral testing and the wax protocol that will be in place for the actual trials in Prince George as well. Moving forward, if you're able to have your cameras on, if you're in a position to do that, please do so. We will ask the guests to put any questions in the chat. And as we proceed, if we can get into the chat and have a look at them, then we'll try to answer as many questions as we can today. If we don't get to your question, again, certainly would like you to reach out to myself and ask any questions about the process or the procedures, how it got to where we are, and hopefully we can provide you with answers to all of your concerns and questions moving forward. So without further ado, I'll continue to move in the deck here. As mentioned, our objective as Nordic Canada, we certainly spent a lot of time objectifying and making sure that we looked at all of the data that we could to come up with our performance objective for this INP. And it is to nominate a team that demonstrated that it will give Canada the greatest potential to reach the podium in the team sprint and team relay events at the 2026 Winter Olympic Games in a clear and transparent manner. So the priorities that this organization has identified are the women's team sprint free, the men's team sprint free, and the men's 4x7.5 kilometer relay. And again, those were based on podium potential and probability, using our data analytics to come up with our objective for the actual games. So things that I'd like to cover off with you today, I'm not going to go through the entire document line by line. We'll probably be here for a little while if I was to do that. But there are some critical elements that we've made some adjustments to as we move forward. And some of those things that we want to, the key components that we want to outline here today are the athlete eligibility requirements for the trials and for the games. The Olympic trials distance ranking list, which is a definition that we've came up for the games and how we use the FIS points for the games. The nomination criteria priorities. Okay, so going through those with you. Alternate athletes and what that would look like moving forward. Exceptional circumstances, injury and illness, and the athletes that would qualify for that and the procedures that would go along with exceptional circumstances, injury and illness. The new appeal procedure that would be in place for the INP, as well as just some of the highlights on the timeline summary. So I will move into the document and try to smoothly go to each of those sections and review the information that has been adjusted and try to provide any further clarity for you. Okay, just a thumbs up if you can see the Olympic Winter Games selection criteria. You're good? Okay. Sometimes technology isn't my friend. So moving forward into it, the first section that we wanted to get into is the athlete requirements for the actual trials. And so before the start of the Nordic Canada Olympic trials, athletes seeking nomination for the Olympic Winter Games must be a member in good standing, and that is set out by Nordic Canada's bylaws, be a registered Nordic Canada club with a Nordic Canada club, have a valid Nordic Canada race license, and have a valid Canadian FIS license. Okay, so that would be strictly to participate with seeking nomination. So again, there may be other athletes that will be at the trials. This is an open competition, so we can have international competition at the trials and athletes that are not eligible meeting these standards, but it is not closed off to athletes that meet these requirements. One of the important definitions that we've had a lot of questions on, and we've done our very best working with several experts within the high performance community to flush out the definition of the Olympic trials distance ranking list that will be utilized in the prioritization for the nomination criteria. So the Olympic trials distance ranking list is a combination of FIS points from the race 10-kilometer interval start classic and 10K interval start free. The Olympic trials distance ranking list will be an internally created list and is based on FIS race points before race penalty is applied. So what that means is the winner is given 0 race points and the rest of the field is assigned race points according to the standard FIS protocol. In doing so, athletes will not benefit nor be penalized by other athletes in the race field. So I know that's a long-winded definition. We felt it was important for you to understand it and to go through it with you today. That will be the ranking list that we will create at the trials. And so not to be confused with the overall FIS ranking list or points list that will be created for the entire field. Okay. Moving forward into the nomination criteria, Nordic Canada will apply priorities 1 to 7 below until all available quota spots as determined by the Olympic qualification system have been allocated in accordance to the maximum team size outlined in section 1(3). Okay, so when the positions are the quota spots are all handed out, We do not continue in the priorities. That's where we would look to flush out the alternates, alternate 1 and alternate 2. Okay. Priority 1 and 2 took place over last season, so those priorities are no longer in place, and we have one athlete that's joined us today that is qualified under priority 1 and 2. So we do move directly into priority 3. Okay, so priority 3 is at the Olympic trials, December 12th to 16th, the winner of the 10K interval start free per gender, winner of the 10K interval start classic per gender. Okay, so you'll see down further in the priorities, if we have the same winner in these races per gender, so if there's one man or one woman that win both of the 10Ks, that is brought into priority 5. So that is accounted for. Priority 4 is athletes meeting the exceptional circumstances, injury, and illness under section 6. Okay, which we'll get into a little bit further down in the conversation today. Priority 5, again, going back to the Olympic trials, the next ranked athletes with total lowest FIS points from the Olympic trials distance ranking list in section 5.4a to a maximum of 2 quota nominations per gender. If there are 2 different winners in the 10K interval start free and the 10K interval start classic, a maximum of 3 quota nominations per gender. If the same athlete wins the 10K interval start free and the 10K interval start classic. Okay. So we brought some scenarios into place and we left them here. Instead of putting them in appendix, we left them right here for people to divulge and try to understand the language that's above in point A. So hopefully that provides clarity as to how we would go to 2 nominations versus 3 nominations and moving forward into the following priority. Okay. Then we move into priority 6, which is the winner of the sprint free final. As long as the athlete is ranked in the top 8 in one of the races from the Olympic trials distance ranking list based on FIS points from priority 3. Okay, and that's obviously the 10K interval start free and the 10K interval start classic, to a maximum size outlined in section 1.3. A maximum of 1 quota nomination per gender is available in priority 6. I do want to point out a couple details in this. This does not open itself up for a rollback. So if the person that wins the sprint free final does not get a top 8 in either of the distance races, we do not move to the second place. Okay, the priority is moved on. I will say, and I know it's been a bit of a topic of conversation, that when you start to look at the priorities, considering that we have used priority 1 and 2 already, when we look at priorities 3, 4, and 5, there is a very high probability, if there's no injury or illness, that priority 6 would be rewarded to the men's 5th place, which may be alternate 1. If we're fortunate enough to get that 5th place from FIS, that person would then become the 5th person on the team. So there's a high probability if priority 4 is not used, that the sprint winner, as long as they finish in the top 8, would then be the 5th place on the men's side. And very much similar, because we have one athlete that qualified under priority 1 and 2. On the women's side, priority 6, again, if priority 4 is not used on injury illness, priority 6, the probability is that priority 6 would go to the athlete that wins the sprint final and finishes the top 8 in one of the distance races. Okay. We've worked through the scenarios. The only time that wouldn't come into place if we do have somebody that qualifies for priority 4 under injury and illness. Okay. Priority 7. If quota spots are still available, the next highest ranked athletes on the Olympic trial distance ranking list, section 5-4A, based on the FIS points from priority 3, races 10K interval start free, 10K interval start classic, to a maximum of 2 quota nominations per gender, based on the quota spots available to the maximum team size. So again, now we're getting into a position where priority 7 would come into play if all of the quota spots have not been handed out at this time. And it certainly could come into play for the alternate 1 and alternate 2 positions. Okay, again, if there are questions, please feel free to put them in the chats as we move through the agenda. The next item that we want to cover off today is point 7 on alternate athletes. When announcing the final nominations for the Olympic Winter Games team, the first alternate and the second alternate per gender may be announced as a replacement for a selected athlete who's unable to compete in the 2026 Olympic Winter Games for any reason or in accordance with priority 8, if Nordic Canada is awarded an additional quota spot that does not exceed the maximum team size in section 1.3. Okay. Point 5 under the alternates. Alternates will not travel with the Olympic Winter Games team or be considered a member of the team unless they are officially named to the team. The note here is, in the case that Nordic Canada has not received a 5th quota spot for the men's team before December 18th, the first men's alternate may be considered to travel with the Olympic Winter Games team for camps and competitions leading up to the 2026 Olympic Winter Games. Okay.
Sean, you do have a question in the chat from Catherine.
So Catherine's question is, if the target races for the Olympics, as well as the number of quota spots available for different men, women, why is the criteria the same? Well, the prioritizations are the same. And the objectives are the same. So again, when we worked through the scenarios, we did not believe that we needed to have 2 separate criteria. Yeah, go ahead. Catherine, Catherine, you're sounding like a cartoon character. Oh. Catherine is trying to log back in. Devin, I see your points in the chat. We'll get to this certainly down here in the injury illness section. We had used the Canadian Olympic Committee lawyer Adam Clevens to really flush out the injury illness protocol for us. So I'll certainly address that as we move through on the chat, Devin. Thank you for your question, though. Eric, did you have your hand up? Okay. All right. I think Catherine will probably try to rejoin us. But if there are any further questions, feel free to jump in. Katie, do you have a question you'd like to put in the chat, or feel free to come off mute?
Okay, thanks. I'm just a bit confused when you mentioned that the priorities are the same for men and women. I see that the men's team relay is a priority, yet the women's team relay is not. But the criteria seems to be selecting mostly for relay racers.
Yeah, I would say that objectively, the next phase was the women's team relay based on the results. But again, the first priority on the women's side is the team sprint.
Okay. If the women's team sprint is the first priority, why is it number 6 in selections?
Well, my understanding of the team sprint is longer than the other sprints for individuals. So we need to have racers that can go further distances. So that's what's reflected in the race calendar with the 2 10Ks.
Oh, yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Okay. No Catherine yet, but we'll carry on. Nathaniel, thanks for monitoring the chat. She is. Okay. So moving on to the exceptional circumstances, injury, and illness. So some of the areas that I just want to highlight today, and there's a lot of detail in the exceptional circumstances, injury, and illness, and the qualification for this. I do want to bring to attention a few areas that can bring some clarity for everyone. So in order for an athlete to receive an exemption under point 10 here, for racing, exemption from racing at the Nordic Canada 2026 Olympic Trials, they must notify the on-site Nordic Canada medical team of their injury or illness as soon as possible after it occurs and receive an exemption no later than the start of the first distant race to be held at the Nordic Canada 2026 Olympic Trials. So this was in long conversation. It obviously, in the other literature, it does state that they need to contact us as soon as possible regarding any injury or illness or exceptional circumstances. But at the end of the day, we felt that it is most fair if someone was to get injured or extremely ill, whether it's food poisoning, etc., right before the races, that our medical team just needs to have time to diagnose them, and they would then be diagnosed, and a decision would be made on their exemption. So a little bit further down on the qualification, qualification for Section 6 is to have 45 FIS points or lower on the 8th final FIS distance points list from the 24-25 season. Okay, I see a few hands up. Devin, you've got your hand up a couple times. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to circle back to the injury and illness provisions again. Like when you say the on-site medical team satisfaction, historically or for the last 10 plus years, like we haven't had an actual, we haven't had a medical doctor that has great oversight over the whole team from coast to coast. And even if we did, who would that be? Would that be like a family doctor, or did you know? So I think it's just really important for the athletes, and most importantly, maybe the staff, to understand that like we need to have very clear criteria, I think, and what that means to be sick or injured, because the Olympics are coming up. I mean, like if you have Epstein-Barr, if you have some hardcore virus or something that takes you out of competition for 3.5 weeks, like that's not great for an Olympic lead up and that sort of thing. So can you just speak to a little bit more of like, who are these on-site medical team, or is that not determined yet? Thanks.
Well, point 10 is more about if we had a situation arise in Prince George at the trials and we needed to diagnose. So we would be working with Jeff and the organizing committee to have a medical team that would be able to assess. Now, if it takes place prior to the actual trials, then it would go back to our IST medical lead team here within the organization.
Sorry, this is why I keep harping on this, is because we have teams like in Thunder Bay, Quebec, Canmore, for example, with the training centers. And I don't mean to out anybody or any program or anything like that, but I do feel as though something that has happened in the past is this very thin documentation or no documentation. Essentially, it's like one paragraph in a personal email. And then on another program, you'll have like the whole workup from the medical professional and perhaps the physio and that sort of thing. And this creates a very difficult situation for the Nordic Canada staff to evaluate the legitimacy of some of these force majeures, for lack of a better term. So I just think this might be something to address again and maybe have something a little more concrete for the prior to trials. Great that they have staff there at the trials to assess athletes' injuries and illness on site, but maybe in the lead up before. There's quite a few ISTs that are around the country right now, and it's very different in the professionalism, I have to say.
Yeah, and I think, Devin, to your point here, that's why we work so hard with the COC lawyer and Adam to make sure that, this was robust. I'm not sure if you had an opportunity to read all of point 6 and the qualification for the section. But Adam got very robust in the detail that's in here and how we'd go about assessing someone, and then obviously the documentation and the commitment they would need. And obviously going back to the competitive readiness. So if someone is diagnosed with exceptional circumstances, injury, illness, they still have to meet the competitive readiness, which again, there was a lot of conversations, a lot of detail work through Adam to make sure that the competitive readiness aligns with all of the top sports and how they have their language and their INPs. So I do encourage you to read the full details on point 6 and on the competitive readiness, because Adam has really worked hard with myself and Becky and tried to make this as robust. We added in the point on 45 fist points or less. So that does limit the field that's eligible for this quite extensively. So it is something that we took very seriously, and we understand that, there is a lot of different diagnoses out there with ISTs and medicals, but I think at the end of the day, working with COC and Adam, we're confident that we have a very robust program laid out here for anyone that comes for.
For sure, I have read the document. I think it is tighter than it's been in the past, but I have some apprehension about just the assessment, the assessment of an illness or injury, because that I didn't see in the documentation. So what do I mean by that is, and I'll stop. I'm sorry. It's just this probably will happen. I'm not going to lie. People are flying in. It's around Christmas. People are going to be getting sick, and it's just really important for transparency, to make sure that people don't feel as though they're like if you're using the Canmore IST, for example, to make calls on an athlete from Quebec, for example, it's some sort of standardized, not just some sort, a standardized Canadian medical checklist that is signed off with the doctor that is robust is something that I strongly suggest.
And again, I'll go back to 13B, which must be validated by the Nordic Canada IST lead and the team doctor.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I have the problem. I guess that's where I have the problem, because the IST lead is a Canmore-based person, and a team doctor, we don't have a team doctor. I know that we work with Dr. Reed and other medical professionals in different satellites, but we don't have a single true team doctor, and we haven't for over a decade.
No problem.
We do have a team doctor in Dr. Elena Taub. She doesn't necessarily see everybody, but she does follow up with all the ISTs from across the system. But I see your point, Devin. It's not foolproof. Foolproof.
Yeah. And to that, Dr. Elena Taub, as well as Jody Paris, certainly we have a medical IST program. And certainly they would be the ones that would be validating any information that's coming forward. Okay, Catherine, you're back on. No cartoon character now. Are you all good?
Well, let me know. Is it good?
It's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why things are happening on my screen because I'm not touching anything, but let's just ignore. So yeah, I just, when we said the objectives are the same, I can see on the document that it says relay and team sprint, but at the beginning of the meeting, Sean, you said specifically the women's and men's team sprint and then the men's relay. So that would mean that the objectives are different. And so I'm wondering if that's true. And if we look at past results, it would make sense that we're focusing on the men's and not the women's relay. And then the criteria is the same, even though the objectives are different. And also I know that there's 6 quota for women right now and only 4 for men, meaning that like, I totally understand prioritizing, being like very tight about the amount of men's spots so we can make sure we have the 2 top team sprint athletes and the best possible relay team. But I think for the women, we have a bit more leeway on like making a well-rounded team. And for like me, as someone who's already qualified, my concern is more for like, one, the fairness of a trials where people are given the opportunity to race, but also I really want to have the best possible women's team. And like, I've been on the team forever. This is the strongest team I've ever seen. And the fact that we have 6 spots and might have 7 and might not fill them is like very concerning to me, because I would totally understand if we believe that people won't get spots at the Olympics. Like if we take 7 and not everyone's going to start, then sure. But I really don't think that's the case with the well-rounded team that we have. And the reason we got so many quota spots is because we've had so many great results in different types of racing. And as someone who like saw the criteria, however many months ago, I think it was like in November, for it to be changed 4 months before trials, like if I were racing it, would be so unacceptable because I've been training for 4 months straight, 3 hours a day with a focus on going to the Olympics. And that's just this year. It's been my entire career. And like, thankfully, I don't have to worry about that because I've qualified. But I think it's really concerning that things can be changed so last minute when people put their lives into it. And not only that, that it might not create the best possible team. So like, those are my current concerns.
Yeah, I understand your concerns. Certainly, we spent a lot of time looking at the team size. And for us, it really is in the detail of when we looked at the entire situation, we looked at the races, we looked at the group of athletes. We felt that having 6 athletes on the male, or sorry, on the women's side, is the optimal for performance. And the review was that we potentially would be taking an athlete that may not even race. And if they do race, it might even be just a 50K. So we had to look at performance. What's the optimal team size for us to move forward? And the decision was that we were capping it at 6 and 6 unless there's an extenuating circumstance, which is laid out in the team size for that 7th position on the women's side. Currently, we are at 6 and 4. We don't know if we'll get a 5th or a 7th. And certainly at this time, we feel that the optimal team size, based on the races and the calendar, how it's laid out, that we want to make sure that we have a team based on performance.
Sorry, you still didn't answer the question about the same criteria with different objectives. So I'm just wondering what the reasoning behind that is.
Yeah. So for the objectives, obviously we felt that for the team sprint and the length of the team sprints, that the 10Ks do us service the best for the evaluation. We do have a sprint race there. At the end of the day, we don't have the opportunity to have every specialist, race for every specialist. We don't have a race for 50K. We don't have a race for both sprints. We have one sprint. So for us, it was about how can we set up a trials that puts ourselves in the best position to identify the team that meets our objectives. Sorry, we have a lot of hands up, Devin. I'm not sure you're up twice. Katie, you're up 3 times. Devin, you're good. Okay. Katie, questions?
Yeah, I guess when we're talking about why not take a 7th woman, it really comes down to, are we going to bring a woman that's not going to race? But the way that the criteria is written, I also see that if we're selecting primarily distance racers, we're also going to be in a position in which the 6th members will not get a race start. And I am struggling to find the logic behind why fill that with another person on the distance ranking list, when likely if we're taking the 6th best distance racer in Canada, it's someone that has very little international experience and someone that maybe has never gotten in the top 30. So I don't understand how that lends to the strongest team and overall high performance, instead of having the opportunity to take the best person in the individual sprint, which is the classic sprint.
I think at the end of the day, we if we have 7 athletes that are identified for the women's program, we will have a sprint expert, because they will have highly likely qualified through the sprint that we have in place. Catherine? Guys, I'm happy to meet with you offline.
I'd really like to say that a classic sprint and a skate sprint are completely different. If we look at how we've performed in the last year, actually not one of the people that qualified in a skate sprint last year qualified in a classic sprint. So they're completely different events. So I have to say, like, if we're taking the best skate sprinter, they're not going to be the best classic sprinters, and we're not going to be taking the best athlete. I think that's a concern. And also, I think when you were saying, like, oh, we were concerned about not filling the 50K, that would be the only one. I think that the way this criteria is set up now, we're going to be taking way more distance skiers, and we're not going to have issues with filling the distance spots at all. And most of the distance skiers are quite well-rounded in terms of skate classic and just like all the different distance events. Whereas like from a sprint perspective, the actual like classic versus skate matters way more, the technique. So I think there's actually a way bigger gap, especially when you go down to like the 6th spot. I think having 5 women is distance might be important, especially like if you want to have extras and if you're focused on the relay, you know, in case someone gets sick. But beyond that, there's, I think, very much an opportunity to take the best classic sprinter. And yeah, that's just, I don't think that we've provided like strong evidence that the way selection is made right now is going to be the strongest team.
Okay. Yeah, I guess for us as an organization, Catherine, like we had to go off of the objective evidence. And so when we looked at the data as an organization, the skate sprint is not a targeted race for us. We had one good result. At the end of the day, it's not a targeted race for us as an organization. So that's what's reflected in the selection criteria. Okay, for the sake of time.
Classic sprint and not skate sprint, right?
Pardon me?
I'm assuming you meant classic sprint and not skate sprint.
I'm referring to that we have the sprint free, but we don't have the class. Okay, for the sake of time, sorry, again, I'm happy to meet offline, Catherine.
Okay.
Like we've got to get through the stuff today, but I'm more than happy to meet offline, in person. Certainly hear all of the discussion points here. But again, we had set a target for 30 minutes for today's call, and I want to make sure that we get through all of the points that we have here today. So moving forward, we covered off the qualification under section 6, illness or injury. If you look back at the FISP distance points from the final list, you'll know that there's 4 athletes that qualified under that. So we do have 4 athletes, one that's already qualified for the games. And then moving forward into the final, just with the appeals, we have made the adjustment with the appeals in relations to any appeal in relation to the decisions made under this INP must be brought directly to the SDRCC and will be heard pursuant by the Canadian Sport Dispute Resolution Code. Okay. Any athlete who wishes to appeal the OWGT nomination decision shall file an appeal with the SDRCC within 2 days of being informed of the decision. Okay. So that is an adjustment from our previous INPs, AAPs, and team selection criteria. And then finally, under the timeline summary, just some important things to bring forward. We've talked a lot about it here today, but on December 13th, the priority 4 illness injury must be, that is the deadline for that priority to be used. December 20th is the date that an athlete must accept their selection or nomination. December 22nd is the deadline for filing an appeal. January 19th is the FIS confirmation of allocated quotas places and eligibility. January 21st is the deadline to accept and appeal additional quota nominations. And then finally, January 22nd is the deadline for Nordic Canada to submit nominations to the Canadian Olympic Committee. Okay. So again, all of the INP information can be found on the website. It is posted there. We will also have a recording of today's conversation for everyone to review that wasn't able to be with us today, or for anyone else that's joined us that would like to review any of the conversations. So I will move back into the deck and move to our next topic. Okay. So just getting into the details of the Nordic Canada 2026 Olympic Winter Games trials. First thing that we want to talk about here is I'll turn it over to Eric to go over the schedule.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Sean. So everyone knows the trials are slated for Prince George. Something that perhaps some people don't know is that the backup site is currently slated as sovereign. So should the races at Prince George not be able to happen due to lack of snow or some other unforeseen circumstance, the backup venue will be sovereign. The date's staying the same. So as you can see here, Friday, December 12th will be the first official training day in Prince George. Saturday, the 13th, will be the 10K Classic interval start, and then official training in the afternoon. A lot of this is not news to most people. Sunday will be the 10K free interval start with official sprint training in the afternoon, and then again on Monday, official sprint training on Monday for the free sprint. Tuesday, the sprint free will happen. And then Wednesday, we have Wednesday morning, any athletes that are nominated to the 2026 Olympic team based off of the races races that have just happened here in Prince George. There will be, if we can go to the next slide. There will be an event happening on that morning, an onboarding event. So anybody that's nominated to the team, that does not mean that you're necessarily going because all of this then has to go to the COC, and then they approve the selections or the nominations, and then you're official team member. But you can see there what happens. The Olympic team kit is handed out, the Olympic Nordic Canada field of play uniform, COC headshots, the Air Canada boarding pass photos, and a team photo. And then this is just a private opportunity for the team. It's not open to the public. So we're asking that if you feel you have a very strong chance of being nominated to the team, that you book your travel out of Prince George in the evening of the 17th. We do understand that it is an extra night of accommodation, as maybe some people would be planning to leave on the 16th, but we're asking one extra night. If a lot of people, this may be your first and not last, but it also could be your last Olympic Games. So it's a pretty special event if you are nominated to the team, to take part in this this ceremony and all the things that will happen. Pretty exciting time. So if you can plan your departure out of Prince George on the 17th. Any questions about the schedule there? Devin, you got your hand up, or is that from old before? No, okay.
It's weird because I don't see a hand up on my like screen or anything, so I'm sorry. No questions. This is great.
Okay, perfect. Thanks very much, Eric. And next topic is Wax Tech, and I'll turn it over to our manager of events and officials, Jeff.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Sean. So we will be having I think some people are already aware, but we will have a Brooker floor testing device at our Olympic trials. And we will have a FIS employed equipment controller on site. So it will be a professional operation that is handled by an FIS employee. This is a FIS race. It's a FIS sanctioned race. We are handing out FIS points. And we have been encouraged for a number of years now to get on board with the testing device. And this is the year for it. As we saw in the criteria, we have a lot of spots up for grabs. And that's sort of in two folds. One, there's incentive to maybe speed the skis up a bit. But two, knowing that we may be sending some athletes to the Olympics that are light on World Cup and international experience, this is a procedure that they will experience at the World Juniors, U23s, World Cup, Olympics. So we will have this on site. It means we will not have any common wax protocol. It will be just this device. We can jump to the next slide. So because we know it is new, there's a couple things that we have in play to help all of us, because there will be a learning curve. Obviously, the FIS equipment controller is highly experienced, but for a lot of us, even on the organization side, it will be new. And for the athletes getting skis tested. Even though we've had an honor system for a number of years, that also means that maybe nobody ever actually bothered to do the FIS protocol for cleaning skis to make sure they are free of fluor. They just maybe didn't add it in the last few years. So with that being said, under official training, all three official trainings, Sue Schwartz, who will be the equipment controller, she will make herself available for 3 hours for athletes, coaches, techs, whatever, to bring skis to the tent for testing. In the event during this pre-competition test, and I shouldn't say pre-competition, official training day test, any positive test for fluor in the ski, or as they refer to it as a red test or red result, it doesn't count against anything. It's not stored in a database. You will not be penalized or sanctioned. It is an opportunity to learn whether the skis have been cleaned properly. So there is no fear of repercussions if a ski comes back positive on an official training day. On a competition day, completely different story. We do have a fluor, ski cleaning protocol that has been proven that we can provide. It does exist on the website, but we can get the link to whoever wants it. Just if someone wants to be sure, they can do that to their skis over the next 3 months, and they can test it on the first day of official training. We will not also test skis before the race on race day. Because we recognize we have not done this ourselves, we would not want to interfere with an athlete's mental preparation for their race in the event their ski does not come back out of the tent in time for them to get to their start. There's enough stress on the line to have a good performance without skis coming back. And we feel that testing after the race still provides us with a good opportunity to have a deterrent, but also catch anybody that maybe did take that risk to add some illegal assistance to their skis. So we will be having every athlete skis collected after each race. Whether, Josie, be quiet, please. Sorry, guys. Whether every ski is tested will be kept a deep, dark secret, but every ski will go and from the finish area to the racks outside the testing tent. They will go through the tent and they will come out on the other side, at which point they can be then picked up. There will be no movement of skis by anybody related to that pair of skis outside of a volunteer or the jury in that time. But once they're on the other side of the tent, they could then be picked up. In the event a ski comes back positive, I will let you know that it will be at probably minimum 14 points on the ski that came back positive. There is 0 chance of a false positive test. In the event there is any doubt goes in the favor of the athlete, and there is no penalty. So when they come to the determination that a ski has tested positive for FLIR, it's final. There's also no appeal to that. But if there is doubt, it goes in favor of the athlete. So, and the penalty for a positive test after the race is an immediate disqualification. Any questions on that? Those are my 2 slide decks. So I will say, you know, we have an interest in providing domestic competitions. One, we're trying to select athletes to the next level, but we're also working towards, and Olympic trials is going to be a big push for that, to provide an event that helps prepare athletes for the next level. So by having the gun on site, we want to get athletes familiar with what is going to happen to them at the next level if they haven't already experienced it, whether that's from the technicians, the coaches, the athletes, the team, whatever. So yes, it's a deterrent, but we also see it as hopefully a helpful measure to, we can't affect jet lag, we can't affect the different food and languages you're going to run into, but we can try and have a race that is going to be similar to what you will see at higher levels outside of Canada. So that's it for me.
Any questions for Jeff? Hearing none. Just to close the, oh, Robin, go ahead.
Sean, I do have one question, Jeff. Who's operating the Brooker?
Her name is Sue Schwartz. She's one of 13 employed FIS equipment controllers worldwide. She lives in Invermere. This is what she does. She will be coming from World Para to our event and heading to another one. So she's a very experienced controller, and she is paid by FIS for this.
Perfect. Thanks.
So it won't be anybody learning. It won't be any of us trying to figure it out. I can tell you that. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Any other questions for Jeff? Perfect. Just to close things off, I do want to let you know that recording of this meeting will be available at Nordic Canada's YouTube. The link will be shared through the coaches and race license holder WhatsApp groups. Coaches are encouraged to discuss the information with the athletes. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to myself. If it's something that's out of my range of expertise when it comes to Jeff or Eric, in regards to wax protocols or race schedules, those types of things, I will certainly defer and get the information from those gentlemen. And if there's any other expertise needed. Okay. Katie, do you have a final question?
Yeah, just when can we expect World Cup criteria?
I would say in the near future. Certainly P1 is pretty straightforward for the year. P2 will be the athletes that will qualify at the trials for the positions on the Olympic team. There is other opportunities through COC for P2 as well. And then we're looking to finalize the remainder of the selection criteria.
Thank you.
Robin?
Yeah, I did have one question. If athletes were to choose to go to P1, would that be an option for them, Sean, or is it closed except for Catherine?
Good question, Robin. I'd have to take that offline to get you a confident answer. We haven't discussed that internally, just we were under the impression that all of the athletes would want to be at trials, but certainly we could have that discussion in offline. Okay. Any further questions? Perfect. Excellent. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. Hopefully these calls are useful and helpful to you to go back to the high performance community. Good luck with your training.
Hey, Sean, sorry to interrupt. Can you hear me? It's Olivia.
Yes, I can.
Hello?
Olivia.
Yeah, sorry, I lost the screen, so I don't have the text box or the hand raising thing. I'm not able to be on video right now, but I just had a follow-up question about the illness, like the curtailment criteria. So the only people who can be nominated if they don't race due to sickness are people who have under 45 FIS points. And if they don't, then being ill during trials, like there's no concessions made for that person, right?
That's correct. 45 FIS points or less as of the 8th FIS distance list. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, thanks very much everyone for your time, and good luck with training and take care.
Thanks, Sean. Take care.